Welcome, 102 students. Today we're going to uh, do our That Leviathan Whom Thou Hast Made discussion. So if you want to take a look at the previous discussion, has all the uh, announcement type things. Just want to remind you, if you've got questions, go ahead and post those to the questions discussion board and we'll get those answered for you. All right, so let's go ahead and discuss That Leviathan Whom Thou Hast Made by Eric James Stone. And we've got some questions that will help guide our discussion. Okay. First one here is, should religions or cultures change over time? What examples are found in the story? Is anything lost when they change? Okay, and then we want to analyze Dr. Mercé's argument about rape in Swale culture. Okay, do people have rights when it comes to their sexuality? If so, what are they and why do they have them? Should Swales have the same rights as humans? Okay, why did Neuter Kimball join the Mormon faith? How would you define freedom of religion? Okay. Does a culture have the right to interfere with a different culture? All right, so those are our discussion questions. Let's go ahead and begin our discussion here. So, should religions or cultures change over time? And specifically, what things do we see in the story? So, one of the things proposed in this story is that cultures and religion should change over time. Okay, uh, and some examples from the story is that as as humans are able to explore the inside of our sun, they find a new type of culture that's not found on Earth. And as the religion starts to spread to those cultures, there's some adaptations that need to be made. And one of those adaptations by the LDS faith there is the incorporation of the three genders in Swale culture. So just to make sure we've got everything straight, I like to do a little biology lesson here, swale biology. So in order to have reproduction within the swale society, there needs to be three genders, right? So we have a male, a neuter, and a female, right? And for this to happen, uh, reproduction to happen, genetic material has to go from the male through the neuter and to the female. So as far as what I understand is the the sexual actions can go from any party. Okay, so you could have any combination here, but the important thing to know about this is that only or uh, reproduction only happens when it's all three uh, engaged together. So that's a change that uh, the uh, the church had to kind of take account for as they were convincing Swale members to join their church, is to change the way they are looking at marriage, right? Okay, so that's one example. And another example is not requiring baptism. And President Malan uh, kind of says that, well, that's not a change because the actual scripture says man, right? And swales are not men. But the idea that you can't get a swale into the waters of baptism is another change. But I think most of us agree that both religions and culture should change and adapt throughout their their lives, right? And so I think this is an idea that we are generally okay with, right? Circumstances change, and so should the important facets of our culture and our religions, right? So uh, the question becomes, is anything lost when a culture changes, right? And if we look at the swale culture, was anything lost when the swale culture changed to accommodate the new beliefs among the swales? I think there was some things that were lost, and specifically Leviathan lost some things, right? Leviathan was seen as the swale god, and as she made this accommodation for this new religion, I think she lost a little bit of her godhood and acknowledged that, you know, the way we did things was maybe not a completely thought out way of doing things, and a change needs to happen, and by doing so I'm kind of giving up some of my divinity. Okay, and so uh, we can see that on the outside we see that the change might equal loss of uh, of certain things from our culture or from our religions. But I think the net gained from cultures changing due through the natural evolutions of cultures, much more is gained than is lost. All right, so let's take a look at Dr. Mercé's uh, argument here. And let's see if we can identify the claim, evidence, and warrant. All right, so again, this is one of the textual evidences in your discussion on Canvas. So if you would like to reference that, you can find exactly where we're talking about when we are examining the claim, evidence, and warrant. But she says that her claim is that okay, that rape does not exist for swales. Okay, and she gives some examples, some evidence of why it isn't present in their culture. Okay, she says, you know, there is no unwanted pregnancy. Okay, right? Uh, there is no discomfort. Okay, it is pleasurable for everybody. Okay. Um, okay. And let's see. Just checking to make sure I'm not missing things. Okay. Okay. Uh, and so what would the warrant be here? Okay. If you know, and therefore I think kind of on the claim, so it's kind of inferred that it's not morally wrong, right? And so therefore it's morally wrong. It would be morally wrong if those things are present, but it's not, right? And so what is the warrant here? Okay, what is that basic assumption that needs to be made in order to accept this warrant? Okay, uh, I think what it's saying here is that the reason why rape is wrong is because of these taboo reasons. Okay, so rape is wrong because of the resulting of an unwanted pregnancy. It's wrong because it can be uncomfortable and harmful, hurtful for people, and that it's not pleasurable. Okay. Now, are we missing anything? Is Dr. Mercé kind of glossing over? I think one of the biggest reasons why rape is such a immoral act. Okay, I think what she's missing here is that rape is wrong for these reasons, of course, but she's missing that one aspect, right? Okay, that rape is a violation of someone's free will. Okay, and this is what uh, Neuter Kimball is kind of experiencing, right? The, uh, because Neuter Kimball is a neuter, there's not going to be a pregnancy, right? It was pleasurable for Neuter Kimball, but that violation of I didn't want this, right? That is where the idea of raping someone is morally wrong, right? Given that these other things aren't going to happen as well. And I think this is the argument that Dr. Mercé is missing, right? And this also universally applies to the swales, right? Now, uh, it may not have come up previously because they didn't know that maybe there is a reason why someone wouldn't want this, right? But I think Dr. Mercé is definitely missing out on that large aspect of that. All right, so do people have rights when it comes to sexuality? And I think we've come to the point in the discussion where we can definitely say yes, right? That violation of will it should be protected under rights, right? And I think that you can use arguments from previous readings to say that yes, that is a right that should be protected and should be protected by duties that are in place, and it's government's job to make sure that these rights are enforced, and then the people should check the government, right? And so I we definitely have these rights. Now the question becomes, should the swales have the same rights as humans? Now, I don't think there is a right or a wrong answer here. I know uh, what the literature is arguing. I think there is an argument here that uh, things should progress towards uh, an understanding, at least, between these two cultures, so that certain rights can begin to be uh, shared and mutually understood, right? Uh, but you can make arguments either way, right? That these beings were uh, here for much earlier than humans, right? But and humans shouldn't come and tell them what to do. It's a very valid argument, but it's also a valid argument to say that, look, whenever two cultures come together, there needs to be some sort of understanding and working towards establishing a communication of what rights are and what is valued between both cultures. All right, so let's take a look at why Neuter Kimball joined the Mormon faith. Okay, so one thing that the text brings up is that only young swales joined that faith, right? And so it was this different class of swale that was looking for something beyond what was being offered by Leviathan, right? These you could almost call them a minority or a uh, a underprivileged class within the swales that were looking for something other than what was being presented to them. How would you define freedom of religion? Okay, and I think this is something that is protected under the U.S. Bill of Rights and the Constitution. So, what is freedom of religion? Well, and I think we understand that people have the right to practice beliefs in the way that they see fit. Uh, but at the same time, we have this idea that no practice should be forced upon other people, right? So it's kind of this interesting dichotomy of you're free to practice your religion, but you're also free from people practicing their religion on you, right? So there's this interesting idea there. So that brings us to the question, does one culture have the right to interfere with another culture? And if we have any people who enjoy Star Trek, I know I do. But there's this idea in Star Trek of the Prime Directive. And basically what that means is the most basic rule of Star Trek is that one culture shouldn't interfere with another culture. Okay, but the whole uh, series is kind of based on the fact that this is impossible to keep, right? That the fact that you get two cultures in the same vicinity means that they are going to interfere with each other, right? And so, is there any way to prevent cultures from interfering with each other? Is really what the question should be. And I don't think there is. I think anytime cultures come within, uh, you know, close contact with each other, there's going to be interference. And I think a better question might be that how do we uh, approach uh, the uh, the way these cultures are going to interact with each other? Okay, and we need to know that this is going to happen and have the right mindset so that we can tackle the problems that are going to occur because cultures will interfere with each other. Okay, so I like to give kind of some examples of some hypothetical situations, right? If we say that uh, let's say that I go to England, and I I get in a car and I'm driving on the right or the correct side of the road, we'll say, and I get into a car accident. Okay, and I say, okay, you guys are doing it wrong. So I'm going to force you to drive on the correct side of the road, right? Is that uh, me correctly interfering with a culture? No, I came over there and I'm driving on the wrong side of the road. Okay, it's okay for them to drive different than we drive, right? And it's not my moral obligation to impose what I believe is the correct way to drive on a different culture. Okay, here's another hypothetical situation. Okay, let's say another country is rounding up um, a certain group of people within their society and killing them. Okay, genocide. Okay, should we as a country sit back and say, okay, that's not our culture. This is not our country. Okay, we are not going to get involved because that's their business. Okay, and historically, this is not what we should do, right? We should jump in and try to protect that culture from being destroyed by the more dominant culture in their society, right? We universally agree that genocide should not be happening. So it's not cut and dry whether or not we should interfere with other cultures or not. It's more we should be looking at uh, are we in the right mindset to know when it is appropriate to overstep our bounds and interfere, right? And the United States has good and bad examples of when it was appropriate and when it was not appropriate to interfere with another culture. All right, so just a few things to take a look at from uh, this text. We talked about it a little bit. Baptism, the three genders. Uh, why do swells join an alien religion? Okay, Neuter Kimball gives us some textual evidence here. Neuter Kimball, if you believe that Leviathan to be a god, why did you join the church? Because I do not want her as my god, right? Even though she believed that this Leviathan was a creator, right? She didn't want to have to follow uh, Leviathan. Okay, and this is freedom of religion, and it's also freedom from religion, right? Okay, uh, there were a few eventualities that were imagined from this reading, and uh, when they're going to meet Leviathan, Neuter Kimball imagined an outcome that was from the Book of Mormon, which was Abinadi. And basically, Abinadi went before a wicked king, and he said, you guys need to change the way you guys are doing things. And the king put him to death by fire. Okay. Uh, Burned at the stake. Eventually did convert one influential person, which later went on to do uh, great things there. But Harry Milan uh, imagined a different outcome. Okay, and he says this is going to be more like Ammon, right? And in this story, a missionary went and he converted an entire people. Okay, and so that's kind of the optimism that Harry Milan was envisioning. Now, the actual outcome was different, and they did compare it to another story, and that was Paul before King Agrippa. And from this meeting, instead of you know being killed or converting an entire people, there was mutual respect, okay, and an understanding, right? And this kind of working towards a value of a non-shared belief. And really, this is kind of what uh, the ideal outcome should be when two cultures kind of come together, right? A mutual respect, understanding why people believe different things, and then valuing those things even though you don't believe them, right? And so this is kind of what this story I think is really trying to show, okay, that it's okay that there's different cultures. It's okay that these things come and uh, there are tensions and misunderstandings and things like that, as long as in the end we can respect cultures, understand them, and value what they are doing, right? And so that's really what the story is about. Okay, and Agrippa says, "Almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian," because that is valued, right? There is value in, even though he doesn't believe, he values the belief. Okay. All right, so that will conclude our discussion of Leviathan, Whom Thou Hast Made by Eric James Stone. And looking forward to doing our final discussion next week.